Brachos Daf Lamed, until the end of the fourth parak, discusses the halachos of somebody who needs to travel and how he should handle tefillah. So the Gemara first discusses tefillah saderech and the proper text of it. Then the Gemara discusses the shortened tefillah that you may say. The Gemara says, what should he do if you're riding and you need to be mispal? Should he get off? The Gemara discusses the proper direction one should face if he's outside and he doesn't know exactly where he is. And the Gemara discusses possibly splitting up Shema and Shema Esrei so that you could say one with concentration before traveling or after. Then we have a new Mishnah which discusses Musaf. It discusses whether Musaf is an obligation on the individual or on the congregation, and whether somebody should repeat Yal V'Yeva if he missed it. That takes us to the end of the parak. The new parak discusses the proper attitude one should have towards Shemona Esrei, when one should interrupt, and the daf concludes with some discussions of proper attitudes towards joy. The Gemara continues its discussion of what the language of Tefillah Saderech should be by quoting Abaye, who says that it should be always said, every Tefillah should always be said in a plural form. We should say we and us. We should not say me and I. And therefore he adjusts the texts that we've quoted thus far to say as follows. It should say, and everything else should go as well, ending in the plural form nun. Now, the Gemara asks, when do you say Tefillah Saderech? So Rabbi Yaakov says in the name of Rav Chizda, you can start to say it as soon as you set out on the road. And Rabbi Yaakov says, in the name of Rav Chizda as well, that you can say it up until one parsa. So there's a Machokas Rishona whether that means that it has to be that you're traveling at least a parsa far, or it means that within the first parsa of travel you have to say it. Now the Gemara wants to know, do you have to stop traveling to say it? Or you're not really supposed to be mispal while you're moving? Rav Shesha said you could say it when you're walking. Rav Chizda said you should stop traveling and say it standing. The Gemara records that Rav Shesha and Rav Chizda were traveling together. Rav Chizda stopped and he said Tefillah Saderech. Now Rav Shesha was blind, so he asked his Meshoresh, the person who was with him, what's Rav Chizda doing? So he said he's stopping and he's being mispal. He's saying Tefillah Saderech. So Rav Shesha said, well, if my walking partner is stopping, then I'm also going to stop because I may as well do it in the best possible way, even though I hold it you're allowed to say Tefillah Saderech while you're walking. Now the Gemara turns its attention back to the Tefillah Kitzara, the shortened Tefillah that it said a person is allowed to say at the time of Sakana. The Gemara wants to know what's the difference between that and Havinenu. Havinenu is the shortened bracha that contains within it all of Shemona Esrei. The Gemara says the difference is as follows. Havinenu, you say the first three brachas normally, the last three brachas normally, and the middle bracha contains all the other 12 brachas within it. If you get home, when you get home afterwards, you do not have to daven again because you already said something that fulfills the mitzvah of Shemona Esrei. However, Tefillah Kitzara is just a one-line statement. So when you get home and you're out of a situation of sakana, you have to then daven Shemona Esrei. As far as whether you can say it walking or standing, the Gemara concludes as follows. Havinenu has to be said standing still. Tefillah Kitzara, the shortened tefillah that you could say in a time of sakana, can be said even traveling. The Gemara now quotes the next phrase in the Mishnah, which had discussed somebody who was riding on a donkey. And the Gemara had said, the Mishnah had said that if he can, he should get off the donkey, otherwise he should stay on. So the Gemara quotes a brisa that says somebody who's riding on a donkey, if he has somebody to hold the donkey for him, so he doesn't have to be concerned about what's going to happen to the donkey, and he can focus on his tefillah, he should get off. If not, he should continue to daven, because otherwise he won't be able to focus. Rabbi says he won't be able to focus anyway, because he's concerned about his lost travel time. Therefore, he should stay on the donkey the entire time. That is the shita of Rabbi, and Rava says, and some say Rabbi Shub ben Levi said, that is the halacha, like Rabbi. Now the Gemara discusses the proper direction one should be mispalel. In the Mishnah we had seen that a person should turn his face towards Yerushalayim, and if he can't, he should turn his heart towards Yerushalayim. So the Gemara quotes a brisa that discusses this halacha at length. Brisa says somebody doesn't know which way to turn. For example, he's blind, or he doesn't know which direction is which. So he should turn his heart towards Aviv Shabbat to his Father in heaven. A pasuk is quoted, V'ispalu ala Hashem. The psukim that will all be quoted here are all coming from Shlomo HaMelech's tefillah when he built the Beis HaMikdash and inaugurated it. Now, what if he's in Chutz La'aretz, but he knows which direction is which? He should face Eretz Yisrael, like it says, V'ispalu elecha derech artzam. He should be mispalel towards the land. If he was standing in Eretz Yisrael, he should face Yerushalayim, like it says in Shlomo's tefillah, V'ispalu derech ha'ir, face the city. Asher b'charta, that you chose. If he was in Yerushalayim, he should face the Beis HaMikdash, like it says, V'ispalu l'bayis hazeh. If he was inside the Beis HaMikdash, he should face the Kodesh HaKadoshim, like it says, V'ispalu al ha'makom hazeh. If he was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he should face the Kapiris, which is the top of the Aron, Like it says, Keneged Beis HaKapiros. That if he was behind the Kapiros, Rashi explains he was outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim behind it, then he should turn towards the Kapiros. And the Gemara says what comes out is that all Jews all around the world are facing the same spot. It's like a gigantic tefillah mountain, with the Kodesh HaKadoshim being the center of the mountain. The Gemara quotes a pasuk that describes this: Ki Migdal David Tavarech Bani Letalpiyos Tel Shekol Piyos Painim. Your neck is like the tower of David. It's a hill that all mouths are facing. Continuing the subject of tefillah for one who is traveling, the Gemara now wants to know, what should one do if he has to be on the road at the time where he's supposed to be saying Shema and Shemona Esrei? What is the proper way to deal with that situation? Should he perhaps daven early or late, or one and not the other? So the Gemara quotes 4 different groups of people and how they handled it. Each one was willing to sacrifice one particular aspect for the sake of the other ones. The Gemara says that Levi and Avuah de Shmuel's father, they would split it. They would get up early and they would say Shemona Esrei early before the time. Then they would travel, and when they got to the Zman and Kirshma, they would say Shema. They sacrificed Geula the Tefillah. They did not have a Geula and Tefillah together, but they were able to say Shemona Esrei concentrating. They weren't traveling while they said Shemona Esrei. Where it says that Rav Shimon ben Elazar did not hold that way. He waited until he was on the road, or the Gemara says he was in a ship, where he couldn't concentrate properly because of the fear of the water, and he wasn't able to stand up. But he would wait until then, and he would say Shema and Shemona Esrei together, and at least he got Geula L'Tefillah together. Then the Gemara discusses Marema and Marzutra. They had to say Shir on Shabbos during the time of Shema. Well, what happened was is that the tzibur would say Shema together, and then each one would go off and say Shemona Esrei on his own. So Marema and Marzutra handled it by, they gathered a minyan in their homes earlier, before the shir, and they davened early with a minyan. They said Shema and Shemona Esrei together. The Gemara says that Rav Ashi also had to say shir, but he did it differently. He would say Shema and Shemona Esrei together in the middle of the shir. How would he do that? He would tell a large piece of what he needed to say over to the Meturgaman, the one who announced it out loud, and while the Meturgaman was speaking, he would quickly say Shema and Shemona Esrei. Even though he was davening biyachid, it was biyachidus, but at least he was able to get Geula and Tefillah together, and he didn't have to daven early. The Gemara says, they asked him, why don't you do like Marema and Marzutra? Why don't you daven before the shir? So he said, I don't want to delay the shir and be matriach other people. So they said, well, why don't you do like Levi and Avuah de Shmuel? Just do Shemona Esrei early, and then you could do Shema together with the tzibur. So he said, I did not see that the elders, the old Chachamim, used to do that. Now we have a new Mishnah which discusses the halacha of Tfilas Musaf. So we have a 3-way machlokes in the Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, according to the Tanna Kamma, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah according to Rabbi Yehuda, and the Chachamim. So the Chachamim's opinion is that Tfilas Musaf is an obligation upon the tzibur and on every individual. Everybody has to say Musaf, whether you're in shul, you're not in shul, there is a tzibur, there isn't a tzibur. Musaf is obligatory on everybody. Now, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says that it's only an obligation on the congregation, on the tzibur. But there's a difference between how the Tanna Kamma understands Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and how Rabbi Yehuda understands him. The Tanna Kamma understands that the tzibur has to say it, and that's it. Yachid doesn't have to say it. Rabbi Yehuda says, when there's a tzibur, the yachid doesn't have to say it. But if there's no tzibur, then the individual still has to say it. So we end up with 3 opinions. So Chachamim say the individual always has to say Musaf, whether there's a tzibur or not. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, according to the Tanna Kamma, says only the tzibur has to say it. And if there's no tzibur, nobody has to say it. And Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, says that if there is a tzibur, then the tzibur takes the chiyuv off the individual. But if there's no tzibur, then the individual is left with the chiyuv. So the Gemara wants to know, what is the halacha? So the Gemara quotes, Rabbi Chia bar Av says, halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that the individual has to say it if there's no tzibur. Rabbi Chia bar Avin said, you're right, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, and I'll prove it to you, because Shmuel said the following thing. Shmuel said, I never used to daven Musaf on my own. I was always in Nahar Da, and there was a tzibur, and I never daven Musaf. So it's already not like the Chachamim. And then one day, an army came to town, and they antagonized the Chachamim, and they scattered, and there was no tzibur to daven Musaf, so I davened on my own. So that's not like the Tana Kama. So you see, like the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So now the Gemara relates that Rav Chanina was announcing halachas, and it was in front of Rabbi Yanai, and he said the following thing: the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So Rabbi Yanai said to him, "Go get out of the mismedrash with that halacha. Don't say that here. It's not true. The halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah." And the Gemara quotes further. Rabbi Yochanan said, "I once saw Rabbi Yanai himself who davened Shmon Esrei twice, and the first one was Shachar, and the second one was Musaf." So you see, he does not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah altogether. He holds that the Yachid is always obligated to say Musaf. So Gemara says, how do you know that that's what he was doing? Maybe the two Shmon Esreis were both Shachars, and he said Shachars twice, because the first time he felt he wasn't Mechaven properly, didn't have the right Kavanah. So Gemara says, no, listen, it's Rabbi Yochanan who said this over. Rabbi Yochanan was careful to check what he was doing, and he understood that the second tefillah was Musaf. The Gemara interrupts briefly and notes that Rav Ami and Rav Asi, even though they had 13 shuls in Tveria where they lived, they did not go to them. They davened between the pillars where they used to learn. Going back to the subject of Rav Yehuda and the name of Rav Elazar ben Azariah, the Gemara says that Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi said the name of Rav, that the halacha is like him. And the Gemara says that Rav Chibar Abba used to say Shemon Esrei twice. It happened once they said Shemon Esrei twice. And Rav Zera asked him why. If it's because the first time you didn't have Kavanah, but the halach is you're not supposed to daven unless you know that you could have Kavanah. Oh, so it must be because you forgot to mention Yalav, you forgot to say Yalav, and it was Resh Cheder. So he said, but that can't be, because we have a brisa that says if you forget Yalav by Ma'ariv, you don't have to repeat it. By Shachars, you don't have to repeat it. By Musaf, you don't have to repeat it. All of these because you have an opportunity to say it again at the later Shemon Esrei. By Mincha, then you have to repeat it. But this wasn't Mincha. So Gemara says, no, that's in a tzibur. At least you heard Yalav from the Shatz, from the Shliach Tzibur, from the Chazan. But he was on his own davening, so he didn't feel that halacha applied, and he repeated Shemon Esrei. Now the Gemara wants to know, somebody who has to say Shemon Esrei twice because if he forgot something, how long should he wait between Shemon Esreis? So the Gemara has two versions of this, either Kedei she'tischoine daitai or Kedei she'tischoilel daitai. His mind should be choinin, it should be in a framework of tachnunim, of pleading, or it should be techoilel in a framework of mechila, of asking for forgiveness. The Gemara says, what's these two things? The Gemara says it's from two psukim, from V'eschanan el Hashem or from Vayechal Moshe. Two words describing tefillah with these two expressions. And the Gemara says Rav Anan said the name of Rav, somebody who forgot to say Yalav Yavoy by Ma'ariv doesn't have to go back. Only during the day does he have to go back, because there is no Kiddush HaChodesh at night. The Beis Din who declared the new month never did so at night. So at night it's okay if you missed Rosh Chodesh. The Gemara says, and Amemar says, no, that should only be if Rosh Chodesh was 2 days and you missed the first day, because you could say Aviyavai by Ma'ariv the second night. So if you missed the first night, you don't have to go back because you have the second night. But if it's a 1 day Rosh Chodesh, so if you missed Rosh Chodesh at night by Ma'ariv, you would have to say it again. So the Gemara says that Rav Ashi said that doesn't make sense. That doesn't fit in Rav's reasoning. Rav's reason was because the Beis Din never declares Rosh Chodesh at night. So what's the difference if it's 1 night or 2 nights? It's the first night or the second night. The reasoning has nothing to do with the fact that you could say Yalav Yavai by the next night's Ma'ariv, and therefore he rejects it. This takes us to the end of the 4th parak, and now we begin the 5th parak. The 5th parak of Masechta Brachos opens with a Mishnah which discusses the weightiness with which one must approach Tfilas Shemon Esrei. Gemara says one should begin with Kovid Rosh, with a heaviness of head. Rashi defines that as with a humbleness, a humility. The early Hasidim, the Mishnah says, used to wait an hour before Tefillah in order to prepare themselves to greet HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then the Mishnah says even if the king is asking him to give him shalom, he's greeting him, or if there's a snake wrapped around his ankle, you shouldn't stop davening Shemon Esrei. And the Gemara says, where do you derive this from, this weightiness of spirit that you're supposed to have? So the Gemara quotes a few approaches from Psukim. The Gemara rejects a number of them. Rav Elazar says, the pasuk says, V'hi maras nefesh, Chana was embittered of soul when she prayed. The Gemara says that maybe that's because Chana was troubled. She was very upset. She didn't have children. How does that show that we're supposed to be like that? Rav Yezber Chanina says, by David HaMelech it says, "V'ani b'rev chazecha avi b'secha shtacha v'elhecha kadshecha b'yira secha." With fear I'll do all these things. Where it says maybe that only refers to David, because he would pain himself greatly over his tefillah. Gemara says, okay, well, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says from here, "Shtachavu Hashem b'hadras kodesh." You should bow to Kadosh Baruch Hu with holy glory. What is this holy glory? The Gemara says it must mean you're supposed to read it like this: b'cherdas kodesh, with holy trembling and fear. That's the right attitude. The Gemara says, how do you know? Maybe really hadras is the right word, and it means that a person is supposed to dress nicely when it comes to daven. And we even see that Rabbi Yehuda used to adorn himself when he approached to be mispalel. So Nachman Yitzchak says from the following thing. It says, "Ivdu es Hashem b'yira," serve Hashem with fear, v'gilu barada, and then the end of the pasuk is, and rejoice, be happy with trembling. So now the Gemara spends some time discussing happiness and trembling. The Gemara says, "My gilu barada," what does that mean? Trembling and fear. So Rav Ada Parmasna says, in place of joy, there should always be trembling. And the Gemara quotes the following few incidents. Abaye was sitting by Rav and he saw that he was very happy. So he said, "What do you mean? It says Gilu Barada. Why are you so happy?" He said, "I'm happy because I'm wearing tefillin." Rabbi Yirmiyah was sitting in front of Rav Zeir and he saw that he was very happy. He said to him, it says, "B'chol etzav yeh meiser," that sadness should be a lot. So he said, "What do you mean? I'm wearing tefillin. That's why I'm happy." And the Gemara quotes that Mar Breder Avino made a wedding for his son. He saw that the Rabbanan at the wedding were extremely happy. So he disturbed him. So he took a very expensive glass worth 400 zuz and he broke it. And that brought the mood a little bit more appropriate. This is similar to the minhag which we have. It might be the source of the minhag we have, according to some, to break a glass at a chuppah, zecher l'churban.